Hello, crypto aficionados, and we gotta talk about scams today. And the biggest of them all, FTX, has finally come to a conclusion with Sam Bankman-Fried being sentenced. Now, I think the sentence was too light, but it's not as bad as some of you guys saying that, like, oh, because he's a Democratic donor, he's going to get 0 years in jail. He's going to walk free. He did not. He got 25 years, 2.5 decades in federal penitentiary. Now, the thing about federal penitentiary is there's generally no parole. You don't get out for good behavior. You have to at least serve 80% of your sentence generally, or at least 20 years, before you have any chance of getting out. So Sam Bankman-Fried is at least locked away for 2 decades. I was expecting somewhere between 35 and 40 years, but he got 25. It wasn't just, 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, so it wasn't a slap on the wrist, but I still think it was too light. In terms of financial crimes, I think it's kind of fitting because Elizabeth Holmes did kind of the same thing, but with much less money. So she got 11 years. Sam Bankman-Fried got more than twice as much. Bernie Madoff got like 150 years, but he actually had more connections with regulators. You could make the argument of Gary Gensler and Sam Bankman-Fried, but I'm not really sure if that flew. Obviously, Sam Bankman-Fried's plea and his parents' plea of leniency of no more than 6 years did not fly with Judge Kaplan. So I think he weighed all the factors, but I still think he made it too easy. This was his official statement. The statement from the United States Attorney's Southern District of New York. Samuel Bankman-Fried orchestrated one of the largest financial frauds in history, stealing over $8 billion of his customers' money. His deliberate and ongoing lies demonstrated a brazen disregard for customers' expectations and disrespect for rule of law. Also, that he could secretly use his customers' money to spend his own power and influence. The scale of his crimes is measured not just by the amount of money that was stolen, but by the extraordinary harm caused to victims, who in some cases had their life savings wiped out overnight. As a result of his unprecedented fraud, Sam Bankman-Fried faces 25 years in prison and a forfeiture of over $11 billion. Today's sentence will represent the defendant from ever again committing fraud, and his important message to others who might be tempted to engage in financial crimes and justice will be swift and the consequences will be severe. So 25 years is pretty severe, but I don't think is quite severe enough. But at least, the people that said he would walk free because he's a major political donor, that did not surface as it is a pretty severe punishment. So immediately following announcements in the New York courtroom, crypto users jumped onto social media to express their thoughts. Many suggested 25 years wasn't enough time given longer sentences handed down for seemingly less serious crimes. Some people compared it to Chelsea Manning. Some people compared it to Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road guy, and who got sentenced to 2 life sentences. And of course, the feds are gonna be like, well, he was money laundering and he was helping drug lords or whatever, but realistically, Sam Bankman-Fried did more harm than Ross Ulbricht will ever do. So though the sentencing guidelines allowed the judge to put SBF in prison for more than 100 years, many pointed out before hearing the sentence was unlikely. I didn't really think 100 years was going to happen. I thought it was going to be like more than Elizabeth Holmes, which it was. I just didn't really know by what extent. But Sam Bankman-Fried's crimes basically overtook Elizabeth Holmes. The amount that they defrauded was very, very different. So I thought it would be significantly more than Elizabeth Holmes, which it was, but I really thought it would be 30 to 40 years. So Judge Kaplan weighed all the sentencing factors, including the magnitude of the crime, his conclusion that SBF lied on the witness stand and tampered with a witness. So I think just based on that, he would have gotten more than 25 years. I really thought it'd be 40 years, but I'm not too discontent with 25 years because I think his parents asked for less than 6 years, which was ridiculous, but prosecutors requested 40 to 50 years. And since the prosecutors were 40 to 50, his parents were 6, I think 25 is the middle ground that Judge Kaplan decided on. I don't think he's going to be able to appeal or do anything like that. And I don't think people had too much mercy for Sam Bankman-Fried because of all the hurt that he caused both the crypto market and customers. And also, this was part of the fuel, of course, that kind of lighted all this regulatory crap that is kind of plaguing us now. And of course, like, his co-conspirators like Gary Wang, Carolyn Ellison, and Nishid Singh, I think they'll get about 5 years because they did plead guilty and they did help bring SBF down. So that's where we stand on the SBF case. And another scam that the perpetrator is saying is not a scam, Logan Paul argues that CryptoZoo isn't a scam, and he has a new documentary. I don't really believe him. I'm pretty sure it was a rug pull, and by definition, rug pulls are scams. So obviously, CryptoZoo was kind of like this NFT project, obviously, that kind of completely fell apart, and a lot of people lost money. So like in a new documentary, 5 Months with Logan Paul, journalist Graham Binzer sat down with Paul to get his side of the story on the CryptoZoo NFT project. Obviously, he's going to give his very, very biased views. And remember, CryptoZoo did, in fact, disgorge about $2 million to the users. The duo spoke about many allegations hurled at the internet celebrity, with Binzinger reiterating the point that exposure bought by Paul led people to lose money. So basically, like, Paul admitted that there's an element of truth to the statement. However, the YouTuber argued it was not a scam. He added, "Everything you just said has an element of truth to it. Here's the problem. What you described isn't a scam. I took on the project that I was simply incapable of handling at the time." But I kind of think he knew that, and he basically took the money and tried to leave, despite knowing that. Paul argued that he also lost money in the project. But see, that's generally not... that doesn't really prohibit that from being a scam just because he lost money on the project. And he said he didn't make any money. But, I mean, you could just ring it up to mismanagement as well. The CryptoZoo saga is far from over because it was a one-sided story. CoffeeZilla, told it how he wanted to tell it and told it in a certain way that made me look like the captain of the ship. He is the founder of the project, so I don't understand how he's not the captain of the ship. So obviously, Logan Paul seems to be spewing a lot of crap, basically. This isn't the first time Paul has promised to act against those who have reported about CryptoZoo. In January 2023, Paul threatened to take legal action against YouTube journalist Stefan Feinson, also known as CoffeeZilla, after Feinson published a piece on the project, but he retracted. Now, obviously, like, I'm definitely not on CryptoZoo's side. A lot of people lost like millions of dollars. He did end up paying it back, so I'm not like, I'm not too pissed at that situation, but it's stuff like this that gives more ammo to regulators. So basically, there was a class action lawsuit filed against him. He's going to disgorge a couple $1 million to actually pay back people. So I think like all is concluded here, and I don't think Paul's really in any trouble. And this isn't like FTX. I think he did try to run an NFT project, he just didn't know how to do it, and it ended up losing a lot of money. But I think the way he tried to conclude it and get away with it almost does make it seem like a scam. In other news, RWA is absolutely blowing up. U.S. Treasuries tokenized on public blockchains top $1 billion. Yes, and it's going to keep growing. And tokenized treasuries are probably one of the biggest use cases of blockchains. And they're going to tokenize more and more treasuries on blockchain as time goes on. U.S. Treasuries tokenized on public blockchains surpassed $1 billion as traditional firms continue to load securities on-chain and prolonged period of elevated interest rates. Data compiled by 21.co and Dune Analytics show that tokenized government securities stood at 1.07 billion assets on March 28th, distributed across 17 products. So RWA is really kicking up. I know BlackRock is starting. I don't think it's on Ondo right now. They might put some on Ondo. Ondo honestly might be a little bit overvalued at this point. I think they rode the hype and the narrative a little too much, and they're at a pretty high market cap. But other RWAs are going to have a piece of the pie. I'm looking at like Maple and stuff. I think they have quite a bit of stuff on chain at this point, and I think that's just going to gather steam as more and more like treasuries and like money market things and also other assets like property get tokenized on chain. So RWA, with more news coming out like this, is going to be a major narrative this bull run. So expect those coins to go up. And if you haven't bought some of those coins, if you see like some of the smaller ones that might actually have a bit of news, definitely look into those. Yes, the smaller ones are very, very risky indeed, but they can have potential for massive, massive payoff because of the hype of the entire industry. Remember, cryptos is more about narratives and hype at this point. It still is. It will be for quite a while everyone tries to grab at this utility. But the narratives and hype are going to pump a lot of these companies up. Just got to sell on time. but RWA is definitely an area to look at as BlackRock and big companies really start to kind of like capture this market themselves. Whether they use your chain or not, as long as the overall RWA narrative is up, I think those coins will do very well. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.